Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I got this Meris Polymoon on recommendation from my friend Jim Schonecker. I got it several months ago. Yeah, he was psyched when he first got it, and I hadn't really heard of it. Since about 5 years ago, getting into Buchla, all my kind of guitar and amp and pedal gear list switched over to Buchla. So so yeah, I hadn't heard of this, and I've got like a tape delay unit that's really cool, but I've kind of been wanting something that that thing is it's designed for guitar. Instead of input, it just says guitar in, like, it's not looking for anything else. And so yeah, I wanted maybe some sort of delay unit that would work well both with guitar and with the Buchla stuff, mainly the easel, and yeah, something a lot smaller, but had some more options. So yeah, I've been playing around with it for a couple weeks. Been on my pedal board with the guitar, and I decided today I would take it off the pedal board and hook it up with the easel, and check some stuff out that I haven't been able to really utilize yet. Mainly being stereo out with this thing, because I'm playing guitar. I only have one guitar amp, so it's not a stereo signal. So kind of things should open up with it being stereo. And then some of the kind of wilder sounds that I'm finding with this, I think might be more well suited in a Buchla environment compared to what I'm doing with it on guitar. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of dig in. So a little bit about this pedal, I guess, kind of to go over its features. It starts off with it's like a dual flanger section, which is set with this dynamics knob. It then goes into the delay unit, which is a 6 tap delay section, which has your main time, feedback, and mix knobs that you'd see on most any kind of delay pedal. And then you have this multiply knob that brings in the additional taps. There's then a dimension knob, which for each of those taps that you're bringing in, the dimension brings in more feedback for those individual taps. So it kind of starts slurring things together, and you get a bit of a like kind of faux reverb when you crank it up. We'll check that out. And then after that, there is a dual barber pole phaser section, which just has a few different settings. Very very slow setting. Then there's a setting where it syncs up to your delay timing, and it's like every four taps, it goes through a cycle of the phaser, and then you can sync it up exactly where it'll kind of the LFO will go up and down with every kind of delay tap. Okay, so I think we'll kind of start out with the flanger section. What's cool about this is there's kind of 3 different modes. There's the main 2 modes are based on the input. So it has like some kind of envelope follower in here, and you can either set that up to be an envelope down, envelope up, or you can set an LFO to I think it's just a triangle LFO to kind of sweep through the flanger. So let me get some settings up on here. On the Buchla, there's pretty standard simple patch. Just have the 5-step sequencer going to the modulation oscillator. The keyboard is going to the complex oscillator. I got a little bit of random going into the timbre just to shift things around. That's kind of pitched up higher than the 5-step sequence. And also have the envelope being triggered by the keyboard and going into the low pass gate. So that's that's the complex, and then I also have the pulsar going to the modulation oscillators low pass gate. So let's bring up the dynamics a little bit. And so I guess I'll play without. And what's kind of interesting is you can have the mix all the way down on the delay setting and just kind of use this as a flanger without doing, having any delay. So that's without. I'll bring that up a little bit. So you can kind of hear that doubling effect. I guess it's like a dual flanger. You can kind of hear that a bit more when we have the LFO section on. Do the lower note. And the dynamic knob just ups the depth of this. In this setting, I find like when you kind of really crank it up, you don't really get much. It's a very quick and setting to it. So one thing I forgot to mention is that there's this little Alt hold button here, and every knob and every foot switch has an alternate setting behind it. So if I hold this down and change the dimension knob, I can change the flanger's envelope. Instead of being envelope down, envelope up. By holding it down, I kind of go to the center section. And so now when we try this, so that goes up compared to where we had it at down. And then there's the LFO. Kind of hear that better if we have a held note. And then crank the depth up quite a bit. We can actually change the duration of this LFO by holding down the Alt and then changing the dynamic knob. So that's the fastest we can go. And it goes pretty slow. So another alternate setting that we can use with this is if we hold down the Alt and press the bypass, there's a little light that lights up next to the slow section of the phaser, and then that adds feedback to the flanger. So now you kind of get that super spacey, and I guess I'll leave it with the LFO right now. But excuse me. Yeah, and we got that, like I said, super kind of spacey feel. And you can hear, I'm hearing for the first time, this stereo-ness, they're kind of offset. So this is the two different flangers that it's going through. So like I was saying on guitar, This was a fun setting to put on and kind of wild, but tended to be a little bit much than I needed. I can switch back to the. So now we got the envelope section back. And so it's just kind of static right now because nothing's really moving with here. But if I turn the pulsar back on, you can now hear that envelope up. Go with it. You can go to the envelope down. So yeah, pretty sweet. So yeah, that is just the flanger section. So moving on to the delay, I'll turn the mix up a bit. Turn the delay time up. I'll go back to the modulation or complex oscillator. There's, I think, like 1,200 milliseconds. It's about a second, a little over a second. And there is, so I can turn back the feedback, or turn the feedback up. And get more delays. There is a filter section for the delay feedback, so I'll turn this up quite a bit to get some delays going. So if I hold down the Alt section, in the center there's no filtering, but if I turn it to the left, delays are going to be a lot darker, as you can hear, and then I can crank it up, and they're much brighter. So I kind of have it hang out in the middle there with no filtering until, per, I guess, song or something I'm playing a guitar, or, we'll translate into this too if I want more darker repeats or brighter repeats. I can mess with that. Let's now bring in the multiply section, which adds more taps to the delay. So this should now, I'm going to move it up to 2. We should now kind of get some more stereo effects or stereo delays, as we heard with the single. It's in mono now. Yeah, as you can hear, it went kind of the initial hit, and then it went to the right and left speakers. Crank the feedback up. So now I'm going to go to the third section of the multiply. I got it. So yeah, it's 4 hits, the initial, and then 3, I think. Yeah. And both of these seem to go right to left. Let's go to 4. That one's cool. Go to 5. And they're all set rhythms with all of these, so even if you speed these up, the same rhythm. I'll go to 6 now. I'll really crank this one up to get the turn up some feedback. Kind of like that, how it really kind of quickly goes right to left when it's going through its second feedback phase. So I can now add in this dimension section. I'll go back to 2 setting on here, so we'll just get the 2 taps. And like I mentioned before, when I turn up the dimension, it's going to add more repeats to each of the delay individual taps. So we'll hear what that sounds like. You can kind of hear those. I'll turn it up a little bit more. Yeah, so like a lot of different taps in between those 2. So if I kind of crank it up to maybe 4. And I'll turn up the dimension even more. You kind of get a sense of, you know, it turning into like a faux reverb. I'll crank it up all the way. I'll crank my multiplier up to 6. And I'll turn up the main feedback quite a bit. Yeah, so that lingers for quite a while. What we could do is turn the delay time to be more to be faster. So then all those taps are going to get kind of, you know, shrunk and kind of pushed together, which might add to that feeling of a reverb. Yeah. So yeah, after all that, we can now turn on the phaser section. And so the first one is a very slow phaser. I think it's like 0.01 timing of like what you have the... Actually, I don't know if it's synced up to your actual delay time, but I'll just kind of do a sustained note. And actually, let me... So I've turned it on now. So it's very subtle. I'm kind of going to turn down the dimension a little bit. It becomes more prominent when you have it synced to the delay timing. You can kind of hear that now a bit more. And now it's synced with the actual delay timing. Could add in the flanger. So that's the effect with it turned off. I have the trails kind of, or when I bypass this, it takes a while for it to fade out. There's a cool setting if you hold down the tap button. It will drop the delay setting or the timing, and then I think by half. And then when you let it go, it kind of jumps back. Kind of neat. So, yeah, you kind of have heard some of the delay, also with the flanging, and kind of hear what it sounds like when you mesh it all together with the dimension to, give it a little reverb sound. So now we kind of get to like the really wild section where each of the delay taps, all 6 of them, they have a like a triangle wave LFO that's dedicated to all of them. And with the alt section for the time and the multiply, you can then add different, you can kind of set these LFOs to be, to modulate the delays in different ways. So they call it like early modulation, which is set with the time and the alternate function for that, where there's literally 16 different settings as you scroll through, changing those LFOs to kind of be faster, slower, have more depth than other settings. It also gets into like FM situations, so especially paired with like the Buchla, you can kind of have FM upon FM, and they're just set settings. Like you can't then go to one of these modes and then have more flexibility, like change the depth or anything there. They're just kind of, they give you, obviously like 16 different options. And so in hoping that one of them will work for what you're trying to do. And then they get into later in these settings, kind of more fluctuating between your like bass note and another pitch, like a fourth of your pitch, or it go an octave up and then a fifth down, and it kind of bounces around and helps with getting kind of more shimmery sounds. And so that's all the early delays. So that kind of gets applied to your first delay, and then on through the 5 taps after that. But then you can add with the multiply section on your 6th tap another set of delays. So everything that was I just talked about, you have all those options on the multiply one too. So you can have 2 of these things kind of set up at the same time. So let's just kind of go through them a bit. So I'm just going to go with our multiply on 2. And I'm going to hold this down. So this one, I think we've like first now engaged it, and we've got a little bit of modulation here. Turn it up a little bit more. We've gone to the next setting. It's a little bit more noticeable. Now it sounds like it's faster. I think the depth has been turned up a bit. That's a lot more exaggerated. Now we're into the FM section. And there's 3 different frequencies that the FM is at. That's the 3rd one. So now we're into kind of the specific tuning variations. I think this is going up to like a 4th or something like that. And this reminds me of like a... actually, let me turn off the phaser. Reminds me of like a European ambulance. So that's what it sounds like if you're just doing like a not a sustained note. Let me turn it up to 4 taps and hear what. Kind of neat. All right, we'll go back. So yeah, some other kind of note fluctuation. That's kind of cool. I think this one is like has like a tremolo and a note. I'm just off the top of my head trying to think back to the manual and all these 15 different settings that it has. Now we're kind of getting to more, you know, 5th up, 5th down kind of thing. This kind of reminds me of kind of getting into more like shimmer reverb territory. So if we're gonna like turn up the dimension a bit, turn up our feedback. Turn up our multiply. Lower note. To our normal settings that we had it before, just to finish these out. So, I think that's just octave up and octave down, I think. Yeah, I think that's our lowest. So yeah, pretty wild. And then like I mentioned before, so we have all those, all that modulation that we can, you know, set on here, but then we can add a second layer of modulation on this again. So we'll leave this one where it's at, and then I can go through with this multiply tab or knob, and I can go through all those same settings. We can kind of maybe hear a little bit of that modulation up into the FM ones. So yeah, whatever this one is. So much going on. Turned up the dynamics a little bit. some amplitude modulation to the complex oscillator. All that modulation sounds pretty wild when you have it this on the time setting so high. So now I've got it on FM and more of a subtle modulation. Turn the flanger into LFO mode. And I've got the sync phase going pretty fast right now. Yeah, pretty wild. It's getting some cool kind of carpless strong things. Here, let me turn. Yeah, if I turn the time down quite a bit, and let's see, I'll go back to the setting for the dynamics to be an envelope down again. Train up the feedback, multiply in dimension to kind of get it like to be like a really tight reverb type of setting. Adjust the time a little bit to find cool settings. Sounds massive, it's cool. So yeah, I think that's about it. I think I showed all the secondary functions. There's the only thing I didn't do was like the mix, and that's more of like, I don't know, setting some other kind of gain setting. I don't know. Haven't really dug into it too much, but yeah, it does have tap tempo too, so I guess I could, show that off. I have all these other sounds I gotta turn off first. Oh yeah, we still have that FM going. I can turn that off, a little less distracting. So yeah, I'm excited to use this more with the easel. Kind of into I've been putting this pedal board together for guitar, but also kind of keeping it in mind with the easel as something to kind of throw over the shoulder while carrying this, and maybe not taking my larger system to upcoming gigs and stuff, and just rely on expanding with the effects more than some other, or a whole other system, which gets a little cumbersome to be hauling around. But yeah, I'm excited. It's cool hearing this thing in stereo. I think I can mine a lot out of it. So thanks for the recommendation, Jim. If anybody else has this thing, let me know if you've used it with this, or if you've got any fun settings that you like. And I'll catch you later.